The second blame, I will put it on Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. Why? Because of the EV mandates. I thought the Democratic Party was for the working class, people, the average Joe like me. That's what I thought.
So auto workers and really union workers as a whole are going to be a key demographic that decides this election, especially in those Midwestern states like Michigan and Pennsylvania with the big industrial base there. Now, the advantage Democrats obviously have is the fact that most of the union leadership across America are big endorsers of Democrats, and the UAW is a big example of this. But the problem is that unions don't vote. The workers in those unions do. And the reality is that Trump currently enjoys some of the strongest support of any Republican in several generations among that demographic. Now, to try to counteract that narrative, to highlight some voices on the 2024 election, CNN recently did a news story on these auto workers, and they figured that by interviewing the black one, hey, hopefully he'll be a Democrat, right? Because statistics, whatever. But this is very funny. You're going to see here, it actually went in the total opposite direction. And this guy really did make some pretty articulate arguments in favor of Trump. We'll talk about it. We'll play it here today. But first, folks, do us a big favor. If you're enjoying the content, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And why should you subscribe? Because that red button goes a long way in ensuring we can keep bringing you these videos. It is the #1 way to support our channel less than 2 weeks away from the election. And it's totally free. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button. And with that said, take a listen. This really did not go the way that CNN was hoping.
Macomb County, Michigan. These suburbs just north of Detroit are a blue-collar bellwether. Joseph Knowles about to send a message, about to defy his union leadership, about to vote Republican for president for the first time, about to vote for Donald Trump.
And at this point now, I'm desperate. So I'm willing to try anything right now to make sure that I can fulfill my responsibility and to take care of my wife and kids. That's all I care about.
Knowles is a union auto worker, one of 1,100 just laid off by Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler Jeep. He blames corporate greed the most, but doesn't stop there.
The second blame, I will put it on Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. Why? Because of the EV mandates. I thought the Democratic Party was for the working class, people, the average Joe like me. That's what I thought.
There are more American auto jobs now than at any point of the Trump presidency. But auto workers supporting Trump here echo his attacks on Biden's clean energy incentives and his claim illegal immigrants are to blame for lost jobs.
But if you do it the wrong way, I think you should get round up and just thrown out. I have no problem with that because it jeopardized my way of providing for my kids if they take jobs.
Knowles waves off friends who call Trump racist, says he doesn't believe Vice President Harris is up to the job, and he spars with family members who say he should stay a Democrat.
Oh, man, I took it from my mom, from my auntie, cousins, my sister. They came at me.
And that's such an important point, too, about the EV mandates. Some of you guys asked, Vince, why are you so obsessed with this issue? Why do you care so much about the EVs? Well, besides the fact that some of us who are auto enthusiasts or we like cars do actually want to keep those cars. But on top of that, because this is having a real impact on jobs. And a big reason for that, besides the fact that obviously the technology is very different, is because think about this for a second, right? What is the competitive advantage that America has as a country when it comes to this type of stuff? It is oil, right? It is fossil fuels. It is that type of energy. The advantage that China has is the lithium that is used to make the batteries, right? A lot of those EV batteries and the parts and the resources used to make it are put together in China. So allowing the free market on EVs is one thing. I have no inherent opposition to the existence of an electric vehicle, but when you mandate this stuff, what exactly do you expect to happen? And that is a part of some of the trend I think you're seeing here, is that despite all of the joy and the hype and all this nonsense about her good vibes campaign, the reality is for the past 4 years, Biden and Harris have screwed with a lot of people's lives, okay? People are struggling to pay bills, struggling to deal with groceries. Crime maybe affected some of them, as this guy lays out. Literal regulations and policies that they put into place caused him to be laid off. They're messing with his ability to be able to feed his family. And you know, when it comes down to it, what's more important? Tim Walz flailing his hands around and talking about how he was a high school football coach and Kamala Harris laughing, or the real issues that people are dealing with in their daily lives? And I think that might be something that really makes the difference in this election, is all the people that they've pissed off in a very personal way. You know, it's not just like, oh, you turn on the TV and you see a mean tweet you don't like. No, people have lost their jobs. People in the hurricane zone, for instance, have lost their entire livelihoods, and the federal government's doing nothing about it. East Palestine, etc., etc. The people across this country are going to remember things like that. Anyways, on a similar note, MSNBC recently did a focus group with some black voters, and again, didn't really go the way they were possibly expecting. Check it out.
And I just wonder for anybody who heard that, like what they thought of that.
I was deeply offended. And it felt like a moment where it's like, you N-words better get in line and do what we say. And it felt like him as the czar of the Democratic Party coming down to say, go get these N-words in line. And the general tone of it was disgusting. It was abhorrent. I don't respect it. I didn't like nothing about it. And Kamala, 2 days after that, is like, we love our black men. We have programs and things that we're rolling out for them, and she rolled out policy.
Good cop, bad cop. You know, because
I'm tired of the good cop, bad cop. I'm tired of it.
So you've heard a lot of rumblings about how Kamala Harris is deeply underwater when it comes to black men, who are obviously a demographic that Democrats need to win, not just outright, but by pretty large margins. And that's exactly why they recently sent out Barack Obama to basically shame them and yell at them for not turning out to vote for the Democrats this time around. And first of all, you're seeing that trend right here, but you're also seeing how that's being received, and it is clearly not good for them. But folks, the story does not stop there with some of these MSNBC little like discussion groups.
What are your feelings, and let me start with the women here, about Kamala Harris?
She's a woman of color. I'm not putting her down because of that, and I'm not putting her down because she's a woman. I'm not a feminist, so I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, I don't think that she has the personality. I don't think that she has what it takes to go up against Putin and go up against these other presidents that are built for this. I don't want to be scared because my president is scared. I want my president to feel secure and manly and about it.
We brought up gender, right? Like, do you think it matters that she's a woman and people aren't comfortable having a woman in a top leadership role?
No, I don't think that, because most men, they love their mothers, they love their wives. So as a woman, most men, they respect a woman, but she just don't have the qualification or the education to really run America, because she don't have the experience. She don't understand our struggles. And for me to believe you for another 4 years, you're crazy.
Right.
Like, you're crazy. You're saying the same thing that you said 4 years ago.
So the fact that she's the vice president
That's
to
just
you
the
is
bottom line.
You're like, you've been here, you've had a chance.
Yes. Well, for me, the very first time I ever heard the name Kamala Harris, it was in association to locking up parents for a truancy. That was the first time I ever heard of her name. And I really didn't understand how this person claims to be a black woman, but yet she's locking up black women and black men and separating families.
So look, here's the thing. You can say that, you know, these black voters that we've displayed today are anecdotal. You know, they're individual people. And that's definitely true, right? This does not reflect the entire American electorate. This is just a handful of people that they've picked here to go on the screen. But again, that's not really true. Because when you take a look at, for instance, the early voting data and the fact that black voter turnout is not where it needs to be for the Democrats so far, there is truth in this, right? This is actually a real thing, which is not that Republicans have any chance of winning the black vote. They don't. They're not going to win it outright, okay? I wouldn't bank on that, all right? Don't go on Polymarket and say Trump's going to get 51% of the black vote. But if the enthusiasm is down from, for instance, what it was for Biden in 2020, and she's down with all these other groups as well, then you can clearly see how her path to victory in the election is getting more narrow. Because you would think, of all people, Kamala Harris should be a machine when it comes to the black vote. And instead, not only is she struggling, she is essentially underwater, okay? When you have to send out Barack Obama to go, hey, you know, why aren't you voting for us? Come on, you know, let me shame you into doing it. That's how you know you're desperate, fundamentally. And again, a big reason for this, not just with black voters, but I think in general, why you're hearing a lot of these stories and a lot of these sentiments is because people remember how you screwed with their lives. That's the thing about Trump, right? You may not like what he says on TV, and a lot of the maybe higher income, higher social class demographics in America have the time to worry about what he's tweeting, and that's why the college-educated, relatively affluent suburban voters lean more Democrat, don't like Trump. But for working class people, it's a very different story, right? They don't care about what the president is tweeting. They care about what's happened in their lives. And what's happened in their lives is most of them have gotten a lot poorer, right? They're financially struggling, and they're maybe struggling in other regards as well, right? So that's what it is. Again, when you mess with people's lives, when you screw with their stuff, this is what happens. So with that said, though, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this, on everything we watched here today. How do you think it's going to translate to the election? Do you think my prediction is right, that Kamala will see a drop-off? Forget the margin, just in pure turnout, in the number of black voters who show up to the polls for the Democrats in comparison to 2020. Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.